The Rams regroup at the bye week. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Mineral Wells Football Show, brought to you by Jack Powell Ford right there in Mineral Wells. We'll talk about him in a second. As the Rams drop the last two non-district games, apologize for not having a show last week. Technical issues. That's why we're having a show in the bye week. Normally, we give the coaches of the bye week off, just because we'd basically be talking about the same two things in both shows. Instead, this year, that was the bye week. We're back even on the bye week, but get to ask Coach a couple of interesting questions about the bye week. And this is a very, very important one for the Rams, as injuries have ravaged the team, as we all know. Some are going to get healthy soon, hopefully. But more importantly, district play starts. So you got to kind of get that regroup in. And this district is one of those districts that everybody, has the same week off. I like that. Everybody starts fresh in district play next week. And for Coach, they'll be starting off against Bridgeport. We don't really talk about them in this one. Again, we'll be back next week, so we'll preview next week's opponent in that show. But we want to thank our sponsor of this show, and that, of course, is Jack Powell Ford right there in Mineral Wells. Now, you can find him online at jackpowellford.com. Do most people now, is that how you shop? My wife were recently shopping for a car. We have been, and we were looking online, been looking at Jack Powell's Ford online, actually. And it's so much easier that way. But if you do want to go in, you can. 1418 Southeast 1st Street right there in Mineral Wells. Open most days 9 a.m. to 6. On Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5:30. Closed on Sunday. Again, online, you can get pre-approved, get your financing in shape, even have the vehicle picked out that you want. And then you go to the dealership and you get it right there. That's simple. That's easy. And we do appreciate them being a sponsor, or the sponsor, of the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the said head coach will be joining us, Coach Cody Worrell, right here on the Mineral Wells Football Show, brought to you by Jack Powell Ford. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Mineral Wells Football Show, now joined by the head coach of the Rams, Coach Cody Worrell. And Coach, bye week, we didn't get to talk last week, so back-to-back tough losses. But I do want to make one thing clear. I don't, because of the names, but Quinlan Ford and Godley are two really good 4A football programs.
Yeah, no, they are. Last year we barely beat Quinlan. It's a good matchup for us. And this year they came over and it was a close game, until right there, right there towards the end. And man, they do a good job, and their kids are very, very well coached, and like I said, they do a good job, and I believe they're still undefeated for the year and going into district play. And then Godley. The thing about Godley is you look at their scores. Yeah, they took some lumps, but they took some lumps by some really, really good football teams. And that was what was hard judging them coming into the game. We knew that they were good. We didn't know how good they were because they're playing some teams that are going to be playing in December, and deep in December, and man, they just. Like I said, our kids played hard again both weeks. Man, our kids battled and played hard and played with good effort. Had some mistakes, but that's why you play these non-district games. That's what I told our kids. I told our kids the other night, last Friday night, would I love to be 5-0 right now going into the district? You bet I would. And I hate saying that games don't matter, because they do. Every game matters, but the games that really, really matter are the ones that are coming. The next ones the next 5 that are coming in front of us, and so. It doesn't take away from our goals. If we're 5-0 or 2-3, we still have the same goals. And if we were 5-0, we still couldn't achieve our goals. It wouldn't matter starting off 5-0. But we're excited. We needed the bye week. To get healthy. We're talking about that here in a little bit. But I'm satisfied where we're at right now.
It's crazy to think that, because, just talking at the beginning of the year and expectations. And then, as you said, once the injury started piling on, the adjustment of expectations. But that doesn't mean like, oh, we're giving up. It's just understanding where you're at with what you have.
100%. No, all of us coaches, we have high expectations for our programs, and we do. I mean, every time we get on the field, we expect to win, and our kids expect to win, our coaches expect to win, and when you get a little bit of the injury bug, it takes a little bit because people don't understand. Well, yeah, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since your injuries and this, but man, our kids have been playing through injuries. We've had kids that are battling through aches and pains and week to week and sickness and whatever the case is, just like every other program is. And we're just we were ready. We needed the bye week. I told someone last week, probably more so than any time in my career, if I needed a bye week, and was this year, and it came, and we're going to try to benefit from it.
Well, I was going to ask you, and I kind of knew the answer probably, but this week with all the injuries, was this one of those weeks where y'all kind of just took a step back away from the physicality of practice and such?
Well, we focus more on kind of special teams and just going back to basics, going more individual stuff, individual drills, both offensively and defensively. Really focused on some special teams that have been concerns of mine all year. Also, we say that we shorten practices up. Get those kids get their feet under them instead of having a 2-hour practice. We're going about an hour and a half. Every day. We let them off Monday, watch film on Monday, and then we practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and this morning, and gonna let them off. We're gonna do some stuff on Friday tomorrow, but it won't be any on field stuff. But we did lighten up a little bit of the physicality stuff, took care of some guys, let them go through some drills, and then let them out of some certain things that we thought that, we just need to make sure that, we're taking care of those kids that need to be taken care of.
So we always talk about what players do on a bye week, but what do you as a coach, what is you personally as a coach and your coaching staff do on a bye week? How do y'all treat that week?
And we really, the first half of the week, I really want to focus on ourselves, self-scouting, what we're doing offensively and defensively, how we can get better, what changes can we make, personnel changes can we make to make us better. And then we'll focus on the next opponent, which is Bridgeport, which is next week. And we got halfway through the week, really yesterday, really focusing on them and charting them and making sure our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and just getting ready for the next game, because the next game's the most important game. So.
Well, let's close it out with that. Look at this district so far. Brock, we all knew Brock was going to be good, but I think they've surprised at how good they've been. But I've also been surprised at how Eagle Mountain has remained solid, even though they did lose to Paradise. But again, Paradise is a great team. When you look at this district, what are your initial thoughts?
Man, very, very talented. Honestly, Brock. Brock's going to be Brock. They're going to be, one of those contenders, late in December. Same thing with Eagle Mountain and Graham. Eagle Mountain, I knew that they were going to be really good this year. They were good last year. They got in the playoffs, and they didn't have any seniors on their team, and they obviously have everybody back and some. And Coach Mullins does a good job. They've played some really good opponents as well, and beat them. And Graham, of course, Graham's going to always be Graham, and then Burke and Mineral Wells is always a close game, and Bridgeport's much improved. And so it's a tough district. It really is. From the grand scheme of things, it's going to be a very competitive district to see who those four spots are going to be at the end.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. I want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, all you got to do is email me, Terry, at s2ssport.com. The much-needed bye week. District play starts next week. The real season begins for the Rams. And I think a good opponent to start to help the Rams get right with ball, as Grant and I always say. By the way, check out Sideline to Sideline, the 4A edition, if you'd like to see what's happening outside your district and sometimes inside your district. Also, we do a 3A and 2A show. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@L4 Media, or on our podcast page, S2SGrantandTerry.com. And we're basically on every podcast platform. Just type in the Sideline to Sideline. Now, on a couple of them, it has to be Sideline, the number 2 Sideline, simply because my old network didn't change the name and take them off, so we couldn't do it. But anyway, you can find us. Until next time, this is the Jack Powell Ford Mineral Wells Football Show.